What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another War Within video. Hope you're all doing very, very well. We are going to look at Warlock today. Look at Affliction Warlock, and yeah, we had a lot of fun in some dungeons with this thing. I think Affliction Warlock, just at the outset, I want to say I think it's one of those specs that's gotten a lot more approachable. Very similar to the recent Arcane Mage changes, where a lot of people now feel like the spec is something that they could genuinely pick up. I know I feel that way. And I think with some of the changes that happened to the Affliction Warlock spec tree, just getting a little bit better of an understanding of how it works. I think Malefic Rapture kind of got simplified in some ways in terms of some of the talents that worked with it. So I think Affliction Warlock to me feels really approachable now. And there's a couple things you have to do to make it work, but it's kind of like any other spec. It just has a couple little quirks, it has a couple little mechanics you got to respect, and if you do them, it works out very well. So I did a Hellcaller Affliction Warlock, which again, Hellcaller doesn't make any sense at all because you're not calling any minions from hell at all. That's what the Soul Harvester tree does. So Blizzard, come on, get the names right. I don't understand what's going on there. But here's what the tree does. It essentially turns your corruption into wither, which means any talents here that scale your corruption now scale your wither, which you can see there's a lot of them. Okay. So the biggest ones, I was just looking at this execute one that I don't have, but that's okay. The biggest ones that we're thinking of is, of course, absolute corruption, which makes your corruption last forever. And then, of course, your seed is going to spread that as well. So you now get an ability that does way, way more damage than corruption actually does. This thing does, I think, 3 times the damage that wither does. It's really crazy. So that's very cool. That's the first thing. It also lasts forever because of absolute corruption. Very, very cool. Now, the whole mechanic going on here with Hellcaller is that you're going to spread your withers or your corruptions, and then they are going to gain stacks. Corruption by baseline can't gain any stacks, right? Like how Agony does. So, but it now Wither can. So Wither's going to gain stacks, and then you're actually going to be able to make those withers go acute, and when they go acute, they start losing the stacks that they had gained and dealing damage to each enemy as they gain stacks, which is really, really cool. That's the whole mechanic you're doing here. You're taking baseline corruption, turning it into wither. That wither has a chance to gain stacks depending on what you're doing, and then you have a chance to deplete those stacks and do mega damage to the enemies while that happens. Okay, Blackened Soul is again the main mechanic that we're talking about here. On top of that, you get some other really nice bonuses from this tree, like Hateful Rituals. Wither does 50% increased periodic damage, but it's shorter duration. It doesn't matter that it's a shorter duration because we have absolute corruption. So you're just getting 50% more damage for free here from Hate Fury Rituals, which is absolutely bonkers. Really, really strong there. Agony damage goes up, shadow damage goes up, and fire damage. And then you have more crit, and then your critical strike damage dealt by Wither is increased. Wither has a chance to gain an additional stack when it critically strikes, which is super cool, okay? Here's the final sort of piece that you get here. Dark Magic, this is called Malevolence. It's a 1-minute cooldown. You do get a brand new cooldown. Dark Magic erupts from you, corrupting your soul for 20 seconds, causing enemies suffering from your Wither to take 180,000 shadow flame damage, and increase the stack count by 3, which is amazing. While you're corrupted, your active withers are acute, your haste is increased by 15%, and Malefic Rapture will gain an additional stack of wither to the target with unstable affliction on them. So here's what you end up doing. You throw seed on the enemies, it spreads your wither, then you can press Malevolence and it will add 3 stacks to those wither, to each one of those withers. And then you're going to work on, as you spend soul shards, you can increase the stack count even further. But all of those withers will be acute. So they're going to start damaging enemies every second until only 1 stack count remains. So you're going to be like building stack counts and spending them and doing lots of extra damage to all those enemies. So this new cooldown is very, very neat. But you need to make sure that you've set up your entire damage profile first before you pop Malevolence. Especially make sure that you've sent Seed of Corruption so that you can have Wither on everything, so you can increase the stack count by 3. If you ever press Malevolence before you press Seed in an AoE pack, you're definitely ruining your damage, which is not a good thing to be doing, okay? So that's the basic breakdown of what you're going to be doing. Otherwise, your spec is very much the same. You want to be getting Haunt out as soon as possible. Haunt into Seed, into Vile Taint to spread your agonies, and then you're going to want to look at Soul Rod and Unstable Affliction on your obviously whatever single target you're looking at, and then you're going to go from there. So that's kind of how that is going to end up looking. Let's go to the Twitch VOD here. I'm going to show you some footage here. This was from the opener. Doesn't want to play. There we go. So my opener was actually really awful. I would say Affliction Warlock still has those puddles do so much damage, by the way. You still have to really nail your combo. So if you mess up your combo as an Affliction Warlock, you'll be in big trouble. So it's still an unforgiving spec, I would say, compared to some other specs in the game, like let's say Enhancement Shaman, right? Enhancement Shaman just has sort of a continuous rotation that's always just going, and you don't really have to worry about too many big cooldowns when you're playing Enhancement Shaman. If you're playing some other specs in the game, like a Fire Mage, for example, if you mess up your Pyro Blast or your Combustion window, you're kind of in trouble, right? For Affliction Warlock, if you mess up your opening combo with like Vile Taint and Seed of Corruption, then you'll end up doing basically no damage. So here I'm starting with Seed into a Haunt. Remember, Haunt increases the damage that all your other dots are doing on that enemy. Into a Vile Taint, into a UA. I think I did UA twice. Into a Soul Rot, and then I pressed Malevolence. So you can see the little tiny 3 stack here. Those are my withers. That's stacked to 3. This wither stacked to 3. Watch our damage here. Basically, I want to say to you, you're going to divide your DPS window into 2 parts. The first part is setting up all your dots. The second part is pressing Malevolence now, and then pressing Malefic Rapture, Malefic Rapture, Malefic Rapture. And your Malefic Raptures, every single Malefic Rapture is going to do damage based on every single dot on every single enemy, which is disgusting. So my damage is like decent right now, but here comes my Malefic Raptures. Boom. I immediately up to 700, immediately up to 900k, immediately up to 1 million. Like, look at this damage. I'm at 360. We're at 500k right now. 500,000 damage per second before I start pressing Malefic Rapture. So phase 1 is done. Phase 2 is beginning. Look at my damage. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1 million. We literally double our damage in phase 2 of our rotation. Does that make sense? So you just need to make sure you're nailing that part properly, and that's what the damage breakdown will look like. I think by the end of the dungeon, that's basically what it ends up looking like.
Okay, we're falling off hard now.
So yeah, Malefic Rapture and Wither, of course, are going to be doing the bulk of your damage. This is what's very, very cool about this. So I think that the way to understand Affliction Warlock now, it just makes a lot more sense to me than it did before. You want to start with Seed, as you always have. You want to get Vile Taint down there. If you don't have soul shards, you need to make sure you're pressing individual agonies, and it feels awful if you don't do that. So make sure I'm spreading some agonies here so that I can do a Vile Taint, which will spread lots of agonies. So there's ways to do this much, much better than what I'm doing here. I'm messing this up, but I finally get my dots rolling. Haunt into UA. I don't know why I didn't this. There's Soul Rot into UA. Malefic Rapture. This is just pretty. This was a pretty awful. Look at that damage. The damage from Burning Tar is disgusting. Anyway, we were going to be popping off there, and you can see my damage is actually pretty relevant on almost every pack, which is very encouraging to me. Look at all the dots I have in this one guy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 here, I guess. Potentially 6. I guess 5 there for sure. This is why your Malefic Rapture does so much damage, because it's doing damage based on the amount of dots that are on enemies, and it's just a crazy amount of damage, right? So do this. I have to refresh my agonies, but the enemies are dying. The other problem with like these kinds of keys is that it's a lower, you know, the enemies don't last very long, right? This is a very, very tough. It's like for Feral Druid with all your dots. It's just tough to start ramping, and then by the time you start ramping, everything is basically at 50% HP. Here comes a Malefic Rapture window. This is my phase 2 of my damage. Okay, boom, boom. There's not as many enemies though, so we're not doing as much damage there. We ended up getting stunned. Annoying. We do end up pulling the boss here, I think.
I actually kicked something.
Yeah, the prop pally throws his divine toll, ends up pulling the boss. And then this was pretty hilarious. So he immediately starts putting me on the hook. If you know how this fight goes, he's going to follow one of the DPS people. It's usually a ranged DPS. And he's going to follow you around. You have to walk the boss into bombs that get put on the ground. Right now, at the beginning of the fight, there are no bombs. So I need to get out of here. Okay, let's do this. And we'll get a little bit of this going. And then see you later. See you later, bro. Oh, no! I got yoinked in! No! I thought I was out.
I had a plan.
I had a plan.
It was working perfectly.
And the plan got ruined, so that sucks, but it is what it is. Pretty hilarious. We end up surviving. You can see the bombs landing on the ground right here. So this is what you need to do. You have to walk the boss into those bombs. When you walk the boss into the bombs, he will take 50% more damage while he's there. So there you go. He kind of does this weird like stumble animation where he's stumbling around. He takes a lot more damage there. You can see our damage here is actually not too bad, even though we have to run around a whole bunch during this fight because of the guys that are like yoinking us in and this on the hook ability, which is very annoying. Right now we have some free reign to do some damage, but the damage is actually pretty good, even with sort of not ideal circumstances. I think it's pretty good. Whenever you get a Nightfall proc on Shoutable, you definitely want to proc that. And then our Haunt or our UA is just doing, sorry, our Malefic Rapture is just doing a bunch of damage. Now, I'm on the hook once again. That's not really ideal. I end up getting my Malevolence back here, which is my big cooldown that we get. Now, the 1 minute cooldown, it's really nice to have it on a 1 minute cooldown because it means that you have it up for almost every trash pack and multiple times during a boss fight. I refresh my Seed and then Haunt, and then I do Vile Taint, and then I press Malevolence here. And then we get, now he's chasing me, which really sucks. But this Malevolence cooldown, or I forget what's doing this. It's one of my talents, makes my Malefic Rapture instant. So I end up getting some procs here so I can move while doing damage, which is really nice. It keeps my damage relevant here on the boss fight. I'm getting Nightfall procs on my Shoutable, which is instant, and I'm getting Malefic Rapture procs, which is also instant, which is really nice. And then he ends up dying. So we almost did 500k on the boss fight, which is very good. I think that's actually pretty solid. Now, here's an example of a pack, once again, that's going to die way too easily. I get my Seed going, and we have Wither and everything, but it just dies too fast. I can't even get my damage going. But again, here's what I would say that's really encouraging. It feels to me like all of my damage was relevant on basically every pack. Every pack that I was doing, I felt like I was doing relevant damage. I wasn't always at the top of the meters, but I was doing good damage that was helpful for the team. And I think like that's an encouragement to me. I feel like oftentimes on Affliction Warlock, I felt like I'll have packs where I absolutely pop off because I'm able to set up all my damage perfectly and get all my stuff rolling. Then there's other packs where I'm like, it's not an ideal situation, and I end up just doing really garbage damage. But I don't know, now it feels like they've just balanced it out where my damage is actually kind of relevant on most of the packs that we're doing. That was a bad example there because it was like a scuffed pull. But that's something that I think is very good for Affliction Warlock. We want consistency. And I think that you can get a decent amount of consistency now as long as you sort of get everything going as well as you can. Like right here, for example, it's not the most ideal situation, but I got all my dots rolling and now I'm pumping Malefic Rapture into all those enemies. I keep getting resets. By the way, for half of this dungeon, I did not have my soul shards showing because the beta is just completely bugged. And it's very annoying, but look at our damage. It's good, actually. It's pretty good. It's not 6 million damage per second. I get it, but it's still good. If you're thinking about playing Affliction Warlock, I genuinely think that there's a good build here that is going to do damage. And especially with the Hellcaller hero talent tree, it's like even better. So we get to the boss fight here. Everybody ends up dying, unfortunately. And then my game ends up completely lagging out by the end of this fight. But look at our damage on the boss fight. 500k on the boss fight right now. That's good damage, guys. I'm telling you, from all the damage I've seen right now in the beta, again, there's lots of tuning that's still going to happen, but this is very, very good damage. It's solid. So she jumps away again, and then she jumps back, and then I think I lag out here right at the end of the stream. You can see the progress bar in the bottom right here. It's about to go out. So I had like a big internet just died on me. So it's all good. We're going to just switch to the next video. We end up killing this boss. And by the end of the fight, we were at 575,000 damage per second, which is very, very good.
It's all good.
And we got back here. Yeah, we were at about 575k on that boss fight, which I think is great. That's really, really good. Boss fights are nice because you have time to ramp actually like into your damage, right? Whereas you don't always. Yeah, look at this. Look at this damage, by the way, now.
Do this, and then this, and then our damage.
So we're focusing this big guy. He has all of our extra dots like Haunt, Soul Rot, and Unstable Affliction. Everybody else has, of course, our Vile Tame, which puts Corruption and then Agony. Sorry, Agony, and then the Corruption was from Seed of Corruption. Now we get into the phase 2 of our damage, like I talked about before. We're only at 570k, and then we just start ramping. 700, 900, a million, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 almost. We're stuck at 1.3. We almost, oh, there we go, 1.4. Boom. So the damage is really crazy if you kind of sequence it correctly and get it all down pat. Like the burst window that you have, I think, is incredible. And again, I'm not the best Affliction Warlock player. I've never claimed to be. You know, this is not my main. But this is something that you guys can do. I promise you. This is actually something that works. And I've been really enjoying the damage that it actually does. It's really good.
Why does it still have a cast time? It's so stupid.
Yeah, I really don't understand that. When you pop your ability, that makes your next cast of your pet like 90% reduced. Like, why isn't it just instant? I don't understand that at all. Yeah, it should be instant. It makes no sense at all. Anyway, we push on. There's more damage. 640k on that pack. And then we get to the next AoE pack. And again, our damage will always start out a little bit slower, but you will ramp into your damage. I promise you. You got to be patient. Here comes Vile Taint into a Shadow Fear. I think I didn't have Seed. There's Seed.
They're stunned.
And then Haunt. And then boom, our damage just popping up. Malefic Rapture right here. Boom. Boom. Our damage just climbs. It's crazy, guys. I'm telling you, your damage will not look that great in phase 1 when you're setting up your dots. Once you get to phase 2, your damage will just start popping off like this. It's really good. So yeah.
I got my soul shards back.
Oh yeah, because I like disconnected and came back to the game. I got my soul shards back. It's pretty funny. But yeah, our damage is really relevant here, guys. It's actually really good. Couple of packs like this where we have big damage, and I think it's awesome. Here's another one. We get to set up our dots, I think, kind of correctly now. What's going on here, Twitch? Come on.
That was DCing again.
There we go. I got everything's going. I put Vile Taint, Corruption. It's all going, and then we're into phase 2 now.
Here we go. We're ramping.
Boom. 1.6 mil.
Boom.
1.8 mil.
Boom. We're gonna get to 2 million.
1.9 mil.
No.
Everything
A
died.
little short.
Like, we would have got to 2 million there if everything didn't die. That's how crazy that is. So yeah, it's just important to understand how this kind of damage profile works, and to not be worried if your damage is like looking crappy at the beginning of a fight, because I promise you by the end, once you've ramped up into that sort of phase 2 section that I've talked about, it will look really good. It will start to look really good. So yeah, here's the Hadal Dark Fathom boss fight. Everybody dies because they died to the wave. I'm not actually going to show the end of this because it ends up being, it's fine, but I think I have my DPS overall here. Bmez was doing that. Is that the same crew there? Yeah, it was. So here's my damage overall. We can just look at it this way. Ended up doing almost 500k overall in the dungeon, and you can see the bulk of our damage does come from Wither, this new, replacing Corruption, and then Malefic Rapture, because you're just spamming it and getting so much damage out of it. So this is what your damage profile will look like. Blackened Soul is the extra damage that we're doing from the hero talent trees. That's a nice little boost of damage as well. The damage looks kind of weird. I understand. It's almost like a Beastmaster Hunter, where it's like your pet did all the damage or something, and then you didn't do that much. But, this is all coming from us. I think the damage overall was very, very relevant. And to me, I think this is probably the best tree to pick for Affliction Warlock. I think Soul Harvester is also fine. The thing that empowers your soul, and then it's all about sort of this little demonic soul that follows you around. It's also a good tree, but Hellcaller was just very simple, straightforward, and did a crazy amount of damage with this new Malevolence cooldown. So let me know what you guys think if you're planning on playing Affliction Warlock in the War Within. I would love to hear your comments down below. I think it's actually in a really great place right now with all the talent reworks that they've done in the War Within, and now with these hero talent trees working together, it works very, very well. So let me know what you think in those comments down below. Thanks so much again for watching. I love y'all. I'll see you in the next one.